Hi everyone, this is one of a pair of videos that together are going to show you how you can create a remote controlled TV kiosk. To do this project, we will take advantage of the data hosting capability of DSA and the rapid application development possibilities of DGLux5. The end result looks like what you see here. When we click or touch the buttons in the control console, the content of the TVs updates. We tap first a button representing one of the 3 TVs in our kiosk, and then one of the buttons representing web content that we can choose to display in that TV. Now, this first video will show you how to use DGLux5 to create the look and feel of the console application, and the other video will focus on the data and logic that you will need to actually get that console to work. So what we'll do in this first video is create a basic layout skeleton and then create 2 symbols to put in that skeleton. A symbol is a DGLux5 component that you can design and edit in one place, and those edits affect all instances of the symbol. Symbols are definitely a best practice in DGLux5. They make designing easier, and they make your application faster and lighter as well. Each time I create a symbol, I'll create the master symbol in a pop-up and then insert symbol instances in the layout and then go back and make final adjustments. There are various workflows for symbols. You can edit them inline in the document as well. Go ahead and check out our wiki if you want to see some of the various ways you can work with them. So first, you'll need to create a new project on the Mind TV kiosk. And you'll want to create a DG5 file to act as your control console. You'll want to create a vertical stage and add 3 groups in that stage. I'll give my stage a different color so you can see what's happening. And now I'll give my 3 groups some background colors. I've saved some favorite colors using the favorites feature in DGLux5, so I don't need to manually type them in or find them in the color picker. I'll select all 3 of these groups and give them a width of auto so that they fill the width of the stage. The reason that they do that is that the horizontal alignment of the stage is currently set to stretch. So if this were some other value, they would not stretch. But I do want them to take the whole width. I don't want any stage showing on either side. And I also want the bottom group to take up this extra stage space here. And to do that, I enable flex grow. And while stretch happens in the horizontal direction, flex grow happens in the vertical direction. And that's because we're in a vertical layout. If we were in a horizontal layout, those would be switched. Okay, I want to make this top group a very simple header. I'm going to give it an image component. I've already uploaded some assets to my assets folder, and so I can use one of those images here. I'll make the image a little smaller, make the height of my header 70 pixels, pretty small, and I'll make that group a vertical layout as well and center that image in it. Finally, on this top group, I will add a drop shadow or a box shadow as well. I have that saved in my favorites also. That just adds a subtle shadow with some pre-configured properties I've created here. You can see it just gives a little bit of an effect there. And similarly, on this second group, I'll add a bottom border. So I'll click the border property. I'll click the 4 so that I can edit the 4 borders separately. And then for the bottom one, I'll choose one of my predefined favorite colors. And I'll also need to set a stroke weight and style. Okay, there you can see there's a subtle color there at the bottom. As you saw in the example at the beginning, I want the user to be able to click a TV in the top group and then content in the bottom group. So first I need to create a symbol that represents a TV. To do that, I'll click Create Symbol here in the Symbols panel. I'll name my symbol TV. I'll go to the outline so I can start editing it, and I'll add a text component and an image. I'll center the text component, which means first I have to click the center square in this gadget, and that changes the definition of its position to be relative to the center of the symbol, but it doesn't actually move it. So you can see it's now 55 pixels above center. So I'll change it to 0, and I'll change the horizontal alignment to be 0 pixels from center as well. Now the text is truly centered. For the image, I'll use another asset that I've pre-uploaded, and I'll make that image 250 by 150 pixels for now, and I'll do the same for the symbol. And I'll click the text box and click Move Forward so that I can bring it forward. That's a good start for my symbol. I'll need to add to it later, but for now I'll click OK, and I'll add some instances of it to my page. In this middle group, I not only want to have my TVs, but I also want to have a title above them. So I'm going to give vertical layout to this group and add a text box to be that title, and also add a group to hold my TVs. And then I'll give this inner group horizontal layout. And that inner group is going to need an auto width. And the outer group, you can see, is not tall enough to contain the inner group, so it's going to need an auto height. And now I'll insert a symbol component in this horizontal group. I'll make it the same size as the symbol I defined, 250 by 150. And under symbol, I'll identify the symbol that I want to use in this component as TV. I'll duplicate that twice, and now I have 3 instances of my symbol in this horizontal group. Now I want to do a little bit of editing to make this spacing better. I'll start by turning on wrapping and adding some gaps of 10 pixels and some padding of 10 pixels to my inner group. And to my outer group, I also want to add some padding, especially on the top between that title and the logo at the top. And on my inner group, I also want to make sure that I'm centering my symbols. So I think that's a pretty good start. Now I want to return to my symbol, and I want to make this text on the inside of it variable. Right now, they all say the same thing, but I want the label on my TV to tell me which TV it's for. So to do that, I'll go to the Symbols panel and right-click this symbol and go to Edit. Then in the outline, I'll right-click the symbol and go to Edit Properties. And this dialog lets you define parameters for your symbol that you're going to expose. So things that we can make different for every instance of the symbol. And I want that to be the label. Whatever I enter here becomes my default string. And I can create a binding from this parameter to the text value of the text component inside the symbol. If I click Apply, that's now propagated to all of my instances, and I can click OK. And now I can go into each of these symbols, and there's now a label property here where I can type whatever I like and it will update. Now I just want to change the text in this title. I can see that my wrapping is turned on, but my group is not big enough. And I think that is because, my height of this group needs to be auto. And auto height makes the group size follow the content size as long as the group's layout is either vertical or horizontal. I can continue testing my responsiveness. It seems like it's working pretty well. I do have an opportunity to make this text wrap here so that it doesn't get clipped on the sides, and I'm going to do that quickly. So go to my text component, and I have to change two things to allow it to wrap. First, I have to enable multiline, which lets this text exist on more than one line. And then I also have to enable word wrapping, which says that I want the text component to go ahead and wrap text even where I haven't specified hard line breaks. So I'll do that to allow it to create some soft line breaks as needed, and now it will do so, as you see there. And the very last thing I'm going to do to these TV symbols is allow the user to select one of them and give the user some visual feedback so that they can see that the symbol that they selected did successfully get selected. So to enable selection, all I need to do is click the group that holds the TVs, go to the selection properties, and enable one of these selection behaviors. They all do slightly different things. What I want is this single select property, which lets one symbol, or one child of this group rather, to be selected at a time, and clicking a new child of the group renders any previously selected children unselected. So I'll choose that behavior, and now you can see when I click the symbol instances, this selected index number changes. Now I'll go into the symbol editing mode again, and I'll take the selected property of the symbol, which refers to whether or not a symbol instance is currently selected, and I will bind that to a visual property. In this case, I'll choose the border. So I'll drag the blue dot next to the selected property to the border, and I'll hold Control as I'm dropping it, and that will open this binding dialog. And in here, I will click Boolean to create a Boolean data mapping. And what I want to do is, if the selected property is true, I want to create a border color, like so. And otherwise, if it's not true, I want to have this colorless border. Okay, and I'll create a second binding to the stroke weight. Again, I'll hold Control when dropping. This will be a Boolean mapping as well. And I want, if selected is true, I want a stroke weight of 5, and otherwise, I want the stroke weight to be 0. Okay. And finally, I'll set the stroke style to be always solid, which is perfectly fine with these other two being conditional. So I'll click Apply and OK. And now you can see that the currently selected TV gives the user some feedback so the user can see that it's selected. Now these top two rows are done, and I just need to create the final section of my console, which will hold my content symbols. So I'll go to the symbols panel again and create a new symbol. This one will be called content. Inside that symbol, I will insert a text component and an image component. I'll make this symbol vertically laid out. I'll move the image to the top, and I'll add a placeholder image here to make it easier to visualize my final result. I can tell I want my alignments to both be centered, and that I want my image to be smaller so it doesn't dominate the button. And I want a little bit of padding around everything, and a little bit of space between the label and the image. And I think that's a good place to start. Again, I'll have to come back here later to edit, but I'm going to start with that. I'm going to insert an instance of it in this group. I'll make it the same size as the upper set of buttons for now. And I'll have to name the symbol, and I'll use the name that I assigned to the master symbol when I created it. And there it is. I'll add 4 more instances, and of course they're all in the same location right now, so it looks like there's just one, but if I set the layout of the group to horizontal, then you see all of them. I definitely want wrapping turned on. And I want to align these to the horizontal center like that. And I want a little bit of space between them. We'll start with that. Now I know that I want exposed parameters on my symbol, just like I had up here, to go with this text label and also with the path to this image. So to add those, I can go to the Symbols panel, right-click my symbol, and go to Edit. Then in my outline, right-click the symbol again and go to Edit Properties. And I can add a string for the label and a path for the image. We'll call this string label, the path image, add some default values, which are totally optional, but they just help with visualizing the symbol for instances where you haven't defined any property values yet. So I want my label to define my text box content, and I want my path to define my image. While I'm here, I also know that I want some more visual styling on my symbol, so I'm going to go to the effects and add a box shadow from my favorites. See what that looks like. That's the shadow that I wanted to use. So I'll click OK to get out of here. Now another thing that I know that I want is, much like this box up here on the TVs, I want a visual confirmation that one of these is selected. To do that, I need to first enable selection. I'll enable this same single select behavior that I enabled above, and you can see that the selected index changes when I click on the symbol instances. Then I want to go into the symbol, and just like before, I'm going to go to the selected Boolean property and double click the blue dot next to it and drag that value to some visual property. In this case, I'll use the background property. And I'll hold Control when dropping so that I open the binding dialog. And I'll specify a Boolean data mapping, and I'll say that in case this is true, I would like to specify a color like so. Otherwise, I would like it to be colorless. I'll say OK, OK. And now the selected symbol tells the user it's selected by changing color. The final thing to do on these symbols is to populate the labels and the image paths, like so. Okay, and that is a good look and feel. So I will save the file, open in a viewer on my browser, which I open by just right-clicking Preview and going to Open Viewer Link. I will test it here and also test it on my phone or whatever device I intend to update my kiosk from. But we basically have all of the look and feel in place now, thanks to DGLux5 layout and the DGLux5 symbol component. check out the second video that's the partner to this video, where we'll be actually making this application functional and making it change the content on the TVs in our kiosk. Thanks.